Welcome to episode 16 of Social Anxiety Live. And in this episode, we're going to be discussing the role of social anxiety with specific reference to different celebrations this time of year, but with a notable reference to Christmas. Please keep tuned because at the end of the episode, we'll be providing a very exciting announcement. So please stay tuned.
Okay, so one aspect of the Christmas period that can be really challenging for people with social anxiety are large gatherings. Now, that could be with family, with friends, or through your workplace. We've had an anonymous contribution here from someone who says, I have a couple of work socials to attend in the next weeks, so pretty nervous already, dreading the standing around making chit chat as I struggle to do so. They always seem to talk about something I know nothing about or am not interested in. It upsets my stomach mostly and fills my head with negative self-thoughts.
There's a lot there to unpick,
There is a
isn't there?
lot.
I think there's within that contribution, there's things that we've discussed before. I know that we've talked about the standing around, the chit chat, the not knowing what to say when people are talking about maybe a common theme or a common interest, and you feel that you don't have anything to say. But I don't know about you, but I think there is value in being a listener.
Absolutely.
I think there's value in listening to what other people have to say, and you're listening really intently to what they're saying, and it's almost picking up on what they're talking about, and you're making your body language fairly obvious that you're interested in it. And maybe is that enough to do that?
I would argue that it is enough. It's about if you are a naturally introverted or socially anxious person, that there is nothing negative about being a person who listens to others because everyone likes to be listened to. I think it's actually quite a nice thing if you're intently listening to someone because that's a way of making connection. Some people like to talk a lot and others don't, but by listening, you're still making those connections, but just not as obviously.
It also brings into the fray the issue of small talk, which we discussed in quite a lot of depth in episodes 12 and 13. I think with the amount of potential events that you're being asked to attend during this period, it might be work, it might be family, any sort of other things that maybe don't happen at previous times of the year, having those prolonged conversations or those extended conversations in more situations than you normally would, it's probably no surprise that at this time of the year it brings those effects of being overwhelmed much more to the fore.
Yeah. Well, as you said, at times like Christmas, you know that there are going to be more events. You're going to probably get more invites to things. And it's quite difficult because there is a sort of extra expectation around Christmas. I don't know if you feel that, but sometimes I feel even more pressure around the Christmas period to say yes to people and to say yes to events because it's Christmas and it's a nice time of year. And especially when it's like a work thing, you know that most of the people you work with will be going. So you almost feel bad for being the person that doesn't go. But then should you feel bad for not going?
I think on one hand, there's some people may feel the pressure to participate in these things. So engage in those activities despite the desire to withdraw or avoid the social situation altogether. The other side of me feels that it's almost now thinking about attending the social situations. Is it within your control? You can decide whether you want to go to them and put yourself through
Yeah.
these things, the overthinking, the awkwardness, the not knowing what to say. or deciding, well, actually, I don't want to put myself through that, so I'd rather not go.
Yeah.
Then, though, you think by saying no to not going, that then you're going to be susceptible to what other people think about that decision that you've made.
Yeah. And that's, I guess, again, where we've touched so much upon the overthinking. So even by not going to the event, that overthinking still kicks in because you worry, as you said, about what people will think about the fact that you've made the decision to not go. So it's almost like you can't win. You know, if I go, I'll be worried about what people are thinking of me, how I come across. If I don't go, what are people going to think of me for not going?
I think maybe usefully, it's, within our job, there's a very big focus on having evidence base for things that you do. And it makes me think that within these situations, if you have some kind of script or some kind of thing or phrase or whatever, that if you've made a decision not to go or you don't want to go, what you can say to people to get your point across. So, for example, if I've been asked to go to something and I don't want to go, I think being assertive and saying, I don't want to go
Yeah.
because
Mm-hmm.
I have social anxiety and my social anxiety makes me feel like this. So, therefore, I'm going to spend some time alone.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. And I think that's a great thing to do if you are comfortable with speaking quite openly and honestly about your social anxiety. I know in the past when I've maybe not been as comfortable to say something like that, I have just done the sort of thing that I think a lot of people do of just making up an excuse, saying I've got plans somewhere else, or saying I can't go because of this reason, which again, it's an avoidance thing. But if it's what you need to do, then I've definitely done that in the past for social events.
It's figuring out what works best for you. And if thinking of an excuse for not going satisfies how you're feeling about what the other people will think, because if you said, for example, I'm not feeling well,
Yeah.
then you're not feeling well and you're not going, and that's that. Other people just think, oh, they're just unwell, they're spending some time at home. When actually, if you said, I'm not going because I have social anxiety and my social anxiety makes me feel like this in the situation,
Yeah.
it comes back to that other people's views. The other people who treat it sensitively will say, I understand that you have social anxiety. How can I help? What would make it easier for you? What would help you get through it?
Yeah.
But actually, even as I'm saying that, you shouldn't have to sort of get through it.
No.
Get through is probably the wrong word. It's more like, what can be provided to make you more comfortable?
Yeah. So you on a personal level, would you be comfortable enough, let's say there was like a Christmas event that you were invited to, would you be comfortable enough to say to whoever it was, I'm not coming because of my social anxiety?
It's a difficult one because I have said it, but I know some people wouldn't get it.
Yeah.
But I know as a result of this series of podcasts we've done, people get it more.
Yeah.
But I would feel more confident now if someone's asking me to a social event over the holiday period and I didn't want to go, I'd probably say so.
Yeah.
I find large groups uncomfortable. I find this is how it manifests itself physically with me.
Yeah.
And I'd rather not put myself through it. Don't get me wrong, I have been to social events over the holiday period. And I just think of work, I think of other sort of social things over the period. And it's, as we've alluded to before, you either push yourself through it, you might have a little bit of flavoured water to get yourself through it.
Yeah.
And you end up getting through it. And it actually ends up being okay in the end. But it's all that stuff that happens before the actual event itself, which we've talked about so many times.
Yeah.
Before, I think the addition of, when you're talking about Christmas specifically, I think There's the addition of the heightened sensory stuff that happens at Christmas. So you've got like your decorations, you've got lights, you've got Christmas music, you've got Christmas traditions, as it were. And I just think those things culminated together, it is overwhelming. More specifically, if you identify as neurodivergent,
Yeah.
but I also think if you have social anxiety and you've got all those other things going on all together, it can become too much.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it almost then thinks about if you're thinking about sort of family events or things close to home, if we take that example of saying no because you have social anxiety, saying it to your family may be extremely difficult because there's traditions that have been in place for numbers of years and it's expected that you go
Yes.
to those things. And saying that, I don't know how you'd feel. I don't know how I'd feel
Yeah,
about.
I sort of agree that I almost feel like it would be harder to say no to family than to a work deal, work function.
It's interesting because you think about the dynamics of families and how they work. Another anonymous Facebooker got in touch with us and said that when they were young, lots of people used to visit, but it's just me, my parents, and a close friend this year. Now, I read into that this person potentially, I think, has said what they wanted, or I don't know whether it's naturally come to
Yeah.
that setup, but it sounds to me like that person's taken control of the situation and they're in a setup for celebrating this year in the way that they feel more comfortable, which can only be a good thing.
Yeah. Well, they've put a very happy looking emoji after that. So that to me says that's what I want. You know, having a really small group of people at Christmas is what suits me, which I think probably applies to a lot of people.
I think it's what if you have to go to them or you feel you need to go to them, it's what can you do to support yourself
Yeah.
through those. So, you know, scheduling, I know we've said, if you are neurodivergent, it helps to schedule things and to make obvious your schedules to other people so that you know when the time is
Yeah.
for that social contact. And you'd bring your sensory tools with you, you'd have a space to go to as you need to, so you've got that outside space
Yeah.
where if it's just a bit too much. But I suppose within those situations in particular, there are things that stress people, particularly about presents and maybe gift giving, and worrying about how those gifts and presents are received and perceived by other people. And Charity via Instagram got in touch with us, and she said that the anticipation and lead up to Christmas can be terrifying for those who suffer from it as in social anxiety. Expectations to attend work parties, buying gifts, just thinking you are behind in preparations and everyone is ready.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sums it up.
Yeah, I mean, I've had so many conversations, even just in the last few days, about people saying, "Have you bought any Christmas presents yet? Have you done this? Have you done?" And you can see the panic that people have. That, as you said, that they're behind, or what presents am I going to get, and worry. And that's almost just a whole other layer to the social anxiety about actually having to be around people.
Sometimes, I've done it before where, I've got to get something for someone. I just go to the shop, think, right, that'll do.
Yeah,
That'll do.
like quick decision.
Quick decision. And then it's almost sometimes when you're the receiver of a gift, as it were, and you're in that social environment where you are presented
Yes.
with the gift,
Oh.
and you've opened the gift, and in your head you're thinking, "Oh my goodness, what is that?
Yeah.
I don't like it."
Yeah.
But you don't want to you don't want to show that to
No,
other
of
people
course
because
not.
that's considered not very nice, or it's
Yeah.
considered rude, and it's acting appropriately
Yeah.
when you get the gift.
But I've even had that where I've opened a gift and actually really liked it, but because I've got like maybe 5 people all looking at me, I've actually had the worry before that, do I actually look like I like it? Because I actually do,
Yeah.
but is that what my face is showing? Like that overthinking to that level of, no, I actually really like this gift. Do I look like I like it? I hope they realize I really do like it. And then you just,
It's the expected reaction. So the
yeah,
expected reaction, I see this more neurotypically. So neurotypical reaction to me might be you cheer, you might hug them, you might go overboard.
yeah,
Oh, thanks so much, I love it, and everything.
yeah.
But part of me thinks this sounds really bad, but sometimes I think that's a bit fake
Oh, but would you
and a
ever
bit over the
say,
top. But you wouldn't, I don't know.
yeah, I don't know if you didn't like a present though, would you ever actually say that?
Could you imagine, like, you get a gift and you literally don't like
You're
it?
just like, no, thank you.
It's like, I don't like it.
Oh no, that would be awful.
It's the
Yeah.
truth. It's the truth, though, isn't it? And that brings about, the perceived comparison with other people during festivities or gift exchanges, and that sort of fear of judgment.
Yeah.
But I suppose as well, it's balancing out with, you're in control of this.
Yeah.
You shouldn't let your actions be dictated by other people.
Yeah.
Bringing on a little bit further now, there was another anonymous Facebook contribution from someone who does have social anxiety, but that person has social anxiety with strangers, and that's exacerbated by if it's in a strange or new place. When they're with people that they know well, sorry, and in a comfortable location, they're absolutely fine. But adding the unexpected, that's when the social anxiety comes to the fore.
Yeah.
I get that. I really do understand
Yeah, no,
that.
I get that because you might end up spending Christmas with like a partner's family or with a friend, and there's other people there that you don't know or you sort of know a little bit. And as you said, I think being in an environment that is less familiar to you can be really quite triggering for social anxiety because you're in this new environment or even maybe environment that you've visited a few times, and things might be done differently to how you're used to them being done, and you're sort of trying to figure out where you fit and what you should do, and that can be really challenging.
So it comes down to what you want, does it? What you want and how you want to spend the time.
Yeah, yeah, it does, but then I suppose that's the pressures come in. So it should be about what you want to do. But then obviously there's always going to be those expectations if you have family or certain people want to see you over Christmas. I suppose it's that question of, do you follow what you want to do, or does there need to be a balance there?
Well, let's open that up to our, particularly our Spotify listeners,
Yes.
through a question. Would you feel confident enough to say to people, whether it's work colleagues or family, what you want to do at Christmas in light of your social anxiety? And
Yeah.
actually, would you say the word social anxiety
Yeah.
to those people? It'd be very interesting to hear what people think.
Yeah, definitely.
To contrast the sort of family dynamics a little bit more, quite abruptly, actually, there's another contribution that came in through Facebook, and this person talks about family, but particular reference to their mother. And they say that after their mother passed away, they actually didn't like Christmas at all.
Yeah.
They didn't like anything to do with it whatsoever. And that feeling of having nothing to celebrate for at all. But in contrast, over the last 5 years, that's changed now to absolutely loving the whole Christmas period. And they also say being in a good place in their life, and they still think of that person, they still think of their mum, they light a candle
Mm.
for her, And it's almost now as if there's been a complete change with it, which is very admirable. It's very,
Yeah.
very good to hear.
Well,
Because
it's lovely to hear that it's changed so much for her.
yeah, I think, when you've lost people at Christmas, or Christmas reminds you of those
Yeah.
times, it is difficult. But again, that's how you deal with it is a very personal thing. Because some people I know can become very withdrawn
Yeah.
and just want to spend it on their own, just do their own thing. I've spent Christmas on my own. Some of it enforceably because I had COVID a couple
Yes.
of years
Yeah.
ago, so I had to spend Christmas on my own, and it was fine. It was
Yeah.
absolutely fine, and I had all my food in that I needed. I did what I needed to do, and that was it.
Yeah. I suppose the way that Christmas is kind of shown to people is, oh, it's a time for family, it's a time to be together. And that undoubtedly adds to the pressure and the expectations, as you said, for people who've maybe lost people or people who are on their own. You can see why it would be such a challenging time of year and almost sort of comparing your situation to others. That could be quite difficult. You said you were fine on your own and I think quite enjoyed it, but I suppose that's not going to be the case for everyone.
That's right, and I think another contribution that's coming through Facebook is there's somebody who loves Christmas, and I can empathise with that. But there are lots of bits of Christmas that I do like. It says though they say to go on. It hits them really bad in January, right after the holiday. So I draw a comparison there between. We've talked before about you've gone to a social event and you need that recovery time afterwards for that you put all of this into it
Yeah.
and you're just exhausted afterwards.
Yeah.
I see that because I know when it gets to January, it's
Yeah.
it's all over now.
Yeah, well, yeah, there's so much expectation in it. I suppose if you are someone that is going and visiting lots of people and you're having to sort of put on the social side of you, as you said, really exhausting. And then, yeah, I've sort of experienced that as well. It sort of hits you in January and you need a bit of time on your own just to regroup.
Now we also recognise that this period for people can be hard.
Yeah.
It can be difficult. There's a lot going on, and it's essential that if you are feeling low, down, really anxious, depressed, even over the holiday period, it's important to think about what support you might try and access.
Yeah.
Now, there's sort of informal support out there. There's many Facebook groups such as Social Anxiety UK. Our podcast page, there's people who
Mm-hmm.
talk on there. There's also a wonderful initiative on Twitter, or X as it's called now, that the comedian Sarah Milligan runs a hashtag called Join In,
Yeah.
and she just puts that on, I think, just before Christmas Day itself, and people just tag they just type what they're doing, hashtag Join In, and you'll be amazed about how many people respond to it. So that brings a sort of together it's being social,
Yeah.
but without doing it in person, which is a nice thing
Yeah, absolutely.
to do. I think if it's more serious than that,
Mm-hmm.
then we'd signpost organisations such as the Samaritans to talk to.
Yeah, I think the message here is if you are having a hard time through the holidays, then do reach out.
That's right. I think bringing it all together now in this episode, there's a lot of things out there which we've talked about in previous episodes, but this period of the year, I think it can all hit you at the same time, and it's really important that you think carefully about. For me, if you're being asked to go to this, and this,
Mm-hmm.
it's okay not to go to all of them.
Yeah.
It's okay not to go at all to them. It's okay to go for some of it.
Mm-hmm.
I know people that will go, for example, to the drink spit at the start or after the meal.
Yeah.
because at least you're mobile and you're moving around, and they don't go to the dinner bit because you're sat down there and talking.
Yeah.
And you shouldn't really care about what the other people think.
No.
But I realise that's extremely difficult to do that.
Yeah, and if you want to spend your Christmas visiting people and spending time with different people, great. But equally, if you're what's going to make you happy is to be on your own, to just have a nice cozy day at home, get some nice food in and watch the TV, then do it.
Yeah, I think the phrase that comes to mind is, I was looking on Facebook actually just before we started this recording this episode, and there is a Facebook group which is a walking group called the Proper Blokes Club.
Yeah.
And actually, they have a walk in Streatham, and I haven't actually been to it.
Oh, I saw that.
Yeah. And there was a very important message on there saying control the controllable.
Oh, I like that.
Which I think is a nice phrase to end on. I think be daring.
Yeah.
Be daring to say what you want and what you need.
Absolutely.
Now, we said at the start of the episode that we've got some exciting news to share with our listeners. So, Sarah, would you like to tell everybody what it is?
Oh no, I wouldn't take that away from you, Simon. Go for it.
Well, the news is that we've reached the end of season 1. We've got 16 episodes in season 1, and it makes a lot of sense to us, and we would like to progress with the season 2. So we will start recording season 2 episodes in January. And some of the episodes that we are intending to do within season 2 are the role of phones and social anxiety and body image, does sensory overload contribute to social anxiety? And actually, probably the most exciting one actually will be the first episode of season 2, and it's reimagining social anxiety about whether actually it can be a positive thing rather than a negative one.
Yeah.
So we're looking forward to recording and sharing those with you in January.
Absolutely. And we just want to say a really big thank you to everyone who continues to listen to our podcast. I think we've surpassed now 1,600 listens. So thank you for everyone who continues to listen, and also to people who continue to contribute to our episodes.
All it remains for us to say is to wish you a wonderful festive celebration.
Absolutely.
Thanks again.
Thank you. Bye.